We begin today with my answering an unasked question. I tell you what is probably my favorite self-help book of all time. I tell you how I feel about birthday and Christmas presents. I give you my thoughts on New Year's resolutions, and then I suggest one, despite what I just said, just in case. All on the way to answering the question, what's the problem with thankfulness? Welcome to the Sky Pilot podcast that explores questions of faith, spirituality, and religion. I'm Dan Matthews, and I don't have all the answers, but I do enjoy the questions. Welcome to the podcast where every question is an invitation into a spiritual quest, and you're invited along for the journey. Hi, I'm Dan. This is Quark, and I'm glad to have you join us for the Sky Pilot Faith Quest podcast, the video version. Now, if you were to ask me my love language,
which we did not,
but if you did, I would tell you that my primary love language, or languages, I have two, are acts of service and the giving of gifts. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a book by Gary Chapman about, well, it's not even just about, it's called The 5 Love Languages. And the important lesson is that your love language is the way you know you're loved, the way you receive loved or feel love. But perhaps more important in this book is this: because that's how you tend to experience love, when you want to express love, that's how you do it as well. So, as an example, I feel love through act of service and the receiving of gifts, but also I'm most likely to express my love for other people in those ways as well, which, just as an aside, is probably why I like to cook so much. When I place a meal on the table in front of my family, my loved ones, people I care about, I am both offering an act of service, my cooking, and a gift, the food itself. So it really is nice. It covers both of my love languages when I'm trying to express to the people who are sitting at the table. Now, I'm not mercenary. The love expressed in a gift is not found in the monetary value, but is found in how well the gift is chosen, and therefore an expression of an awareness of who I am. A really good gift to me is a way that somebody shows me, I know who you are, I know what your interests are, I know what you like to do, and this gift reflects my knowing who you are. And also, when I give a gift, I attempt to do the exact same thing, to show somebody that they are seen and they are known and they are valued by the gift that I'm giving them.
Oh, since giving gifts is a way in which you express your love, you must really enjoy birthdays and Christmas when they roll around.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? I mean, that would be the logical assumption, but in truth, not so much. Now, I don't dislike birthdays or Christmas, but I'll tell you why they're not my favorite. I enjoy giving gifts the most when it seems to be appropriate time for the gift. I'll give you an example. So our son had finished college and was living in another town down in Florida where he'd gotten a job, and it turned out his work was a couple of miles away from his home, and that fortunately both locations were very close to a bike trail. So since he didn't own a car, he commuted several miles every day to and from his work on his skateboard. Now, this might have been more fun if it had been a little bit hilly and he could therefore rest when he was going down hills. But he lived in Florida, as I said. The skateboard that he had used to get to class every day on campus, which was, 150, 200 yards from his dorm to most of his classes, that skateboard was now a lot less fun when he had to use it to commute several miles in each direction. So I did some research, found a bike that I thought would suit his needs, and had it shipped to him. No special occasion, just shipped to him because he needed a bike and it was fun to give him one. He was so excited when he received it. It was a surprise, and I had so much fun giving it. Now, birthdays and Christmas aren't quite as much fun for me because they're about giving on a particular date rather than the gift being about being given because it's a wonderful opportunity that presents itself. Now, that is a rather lengthy explanation to lead into the next one. I kind of feel the same way about New Year's resolutions. I'm not against resolutions per se. I just don't really see the connection between the first of the year and the need to make a resolution.
You don't see the connection between a new year and a desire to make a new start? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, okay, I see the connection, but again, it seems a little arbitrary and forced to me. I kind of feel like resolutions or even making a new start is something that we all need to know can take place anytime, any day of the year, anywhere in our life, and not just around New Year's.
So, to be clear, we aren't going to be talking about New Year's resolutions in this podcast episode?
Well, yes and no. Look, I know we all at least think about resolutions around this time of year, and even people who are ardent anti-resolutionists, which I want to be clear, I am not. But even people who are thinking about resolutions this time of year because, well, they're getting asked about them by other people. And actually, if you are an anti-resolutionist, this is kind of your favorite time of the year because this is the time that whenever somebody asks you, you get to make your stance known to them that you don't believe in resolutions. So let's talk about one of the major resolutions that's been getting a lot of attention for the past decade or so, and it is thankfulness. I want to talk about the problems with
What
thankfulness.
are you talking about? That's like doing a podcast on the troubles with kindness. Pretty sure thankfulness is always a good thing.
Okay, hold that thought. Let's start with a scripture story from Luke. But I'm going to put it in a modern context just to make it a little more accessible. It was just another weekday at the church, but it didn't matter what day of the week it was because the church was magnificent every single day. It was a beautiful and grand space that had been built over 100 years ago, and today it stands in the middle of towering buildings all around downtown. And as is the custom in this church, it always keeps its doors unlocked and open to all who wish to enter and pray, or even just come into the space to seek the quietness and grandness. On this particular day, two men happened to enter at exactly the same time. One was a used car salesman, and the other was a monk who was in town for a clergy gathering. The used car salesman slipped in, sat in the back, and never looked up. He was aware of the mistakes he'd made in life, the people he'd hurt, the people he'd cheated, and how he'd seemingly lost his way. He'd kept his head bowed the entire time he was in church, and he expressed all of this in quiet prayer and asked God for forgiveness, help, and direction. Now, the monk, he was a very different guy. He walked confidently to the front of the church and looked for a suitable place to pray. He thought about sitting up front, in one of those chairs reserved for the worship leader, but decided against it. So he chose to sit in the very front pew. He liked the choice he'd made because it both displayed his great humility and also, his comfort in this holy space. As he knelt to pray, he gave thanks that he had never, in his entire life, wandered from the right path. He had always made the right choices, and he was thankful that he was not like other men, not like, particularly this troubled soul who had walked into church at the same time that he did. Okay, this is a rewrite of a story told by Jesus and then told to us from the Gospel of Luke, but the story in Luke is very much the same as the story I just told you. The religious man went to the temple to pray, and these were the very first words out of his mouth in his prayer. God, I thank you that I am not like other people. Now, it doesn't take an expert in Bible studies or biblical languages to see that though this man is expressing thankfulness, there is something off and disturbing about his prayer. Now, one of the churches where I served had an ongoing ministry to the homeless. There was a kitchen and dining hall, and we served people meals 6 days a week throughout the year, as well as providing lots of other services. We provided services like how to find a job and mailroom services so you could receive your mail in order to find a job. Well, there were lots of services. Every year around Thanksgiving, there was a Thanksgiving meal served to the clients of this place. And the list of people, especially families who wanted to be part of serving this meal to the homeless folks of the community, was always significant, so much so to the point that there was almost always a waiting list for people to serve that meal. Now, many of those people would tell me they considered it important to bring their children, the young ones of their family, to be part of serving this meal, to serve the less fortunate, so that, and they would often say something like this, on Thanksgiving Day, they would be aware of how fortunate they have it and be truly thankful for all the blessings they have in their life.
Oh, that seems a little off the mark, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So here's the problem with thankfulness. First and foremost, it can quickly and easily turn into something that looks more like gloating than being thankful. Now, some of this is just a natural expression of the way we feel when we see someone who is struggling in a way, well, that we aren't. I don't know if we can eliminate that awareness or that feeling entirely. I mean, think about it. I'm crossing the street and the person just in front of me, a car runs the red light and that person is hit by the car and I'm not. I can't help in that moment but think about how that could have been me. I could have been hit by that car, but I wasn't. But when we begin to say, I help homeless people because it helps me to remember and appreciate all that I have, there is a silent implication that, and appreciate all that they do not have. And that's the dark side of thankfulness. And though we call it thankfulness, it's really wandering into the area of gloating at those times, isn't it?
Yes, quite.
So there's a push among some people, both in the faith community and the world of mental health, to move away from being thankful, which is defined as a response to a particular occurrence, and more towards a life of gratitude. Now, in some sense, this can easily be seen as taking two words that mean largely the same thing and drawing an artificial distinction between the two of them, and that in this case would be absolutely, totally accurate. But the process here that we're going through is not really about finding the true meaning of either word as much as it is about giving them meaning that maybe helps us to live in a new and healthier way. So many people describe thankfulness as a response, a reaction to something that has happened in your life, and gratefulness as an intentional state of being. Now, just like being thankful is something that we're taught from a young age. Remember your parents saying to you, say thank you as somebody handed you something. Gratitude is not a natural thing. It needs to be chosen and intentionally worked on. But the good news is, the more we choose it, the easier it is in the future. Now, let me be clear. There are times in life when we are facing painful life struggles. And this isn't about some secret formula that will make these go away. As a family, we recently had to put our dog to sleep. It is sad, and it was painful, and it was hard. This was our daughter's dog that she got when she was entering the 8th grade. And this was the dog that sat beneath, actually, this desk right here, as I recorded many episodes of this podcast. This was the dog we all loved. And leading up to the day that we knew was coming, and on the day, and then on the days following, all of them were hard. Gratitude didn't change that. So I don't want to imply that, if you live a life of gratitude and have current hardship, that gratitude will make all of the hardship go away. But I will say that gratitude helped us eventually deal with the pain because Tonks was a wonderful dog. And slowly, later on, pain was replaced by gratitude for the time we had together.
Yes, I get all of this. But I have a question. How do we go about choosing gratitude?
Yeah, absolutely fair and wonderful question. First, I think it starts with some intentional time set aside every single day for being grateful. Choosing gratitude is like choosing to be fit. It will take some exercises to get there. And then I think there's a helpful way to go about it. You've heard of the 80-20 rule? Well, I want to help you with the 90-10 rule as a helpful guide to gratitude. If you want to practice gratitude and not thankfulness that drifts into gloating, I suggest you use 90-10 as a guide. Create a regular time in your day for you to express your gratitude, your gratefulness. But when you do this, whether it's driving to work or on your walk or when you're driving home, whatever it is, when you do this, I suggest you create a guideline for yourself. and that is this: 90% of the items, experiences, moments you list to be grateful for should be, and this is really important, totally outside of your ability to influence them. You can be grateful for your job, your apartment, your friends, the car you drive, your ability to play the piano, and that's absolutely okay. But those are all things that you have influence over, that you have the power to change. And those, I suggest, should comprise no more than 10% of your moments of gratitude. So look, I'm thankful for the beautiful view we have from our condo here in Atlanta, which is, again, a valid thing to be thankful for. But we bought the condo partially because of the view. So I have control over that. I have influence on that. So now I need 9 more that are outside my sphere of influence. So let me name a couple. This time of year, I love the way the brisk, cool breeze hits me in the face as I walk down the street. It just makes me feel alive. I love the way the low humidity in the air gives a clarity to the sky around me and makes me feel like I can see forever. I loved a couple of days ago walking out on the sidewalk, and there was a father and daughter skipping down the sidewalk and singing, and I was grateful for getting to see it and experience their joy that they were experiencing in the moment. Now, I'm not going to give you 10 because it would take a little bit more time than we need to take here, and I'd probably slow down towards the end because I'm not quite as adept at this as I should be. But this is the wonderful part. The more often I do this, the easier it becomes, and the more regular it becomes. Suddenly, I find myself noticing a moment of gratitude in the middle of the day, not during my set-aside time, but just with amazing frequency. All of a sudden, I find myself being grateful because I've practiced gratefulness in other times. So I don't have to wait till later to express it. I can express it right then, right there, in that moment. Soon, and hopefully, your moments of gratitude are sprinkled throughout your entire day and begin to fill it up. And you realize at that moment, you are indeed living a grateful life. That's all for today. Do you agree with this? Does gratitude seem like a worthy goal to you? If so, do you have an even better suggestion as a way to move into living a life of gratitude and away from just plain old thankfulness? Or do you have a suggested topic for a future episode? Just leave me a comment down below. As always, I love to hear from you and read all the comments that you leave. And on your spiritual journey, may you ask questions, seek answers, and boldly go wherever the quest takes you. Thanks for joining us here today and being part of the SkyPilot Faith Quest community. This is a great place to ask questions you wouldn't feel comfortable or safe asking in other places. And remember, the sign of a strong faith, solid religion, or healthy spiritual journey is not certainty, but that you keep asking questions.